objective around the workshop is to really have communicators or communications experts being ready and actually playing a vital role in the companies that they operate in, because communication is at the heart of everything that we do. So the more we are prepared, the more we know how to speak to our stakeholders, the better they are in terms of understanding what the companies are there for. But also, when crisis hits, you should have already built a trust fund or a brain trust of people who really can support you and know that you have the best intention, but that crisis does happen and it's not your intention. So it is really to make sure that as communicators we are ready, we know what to say, and we are always thinking of our stakeholders and how we could be open and honest to them. I really believe so. I think I spoke to some of the participants and the delegates that came through, and just to get a feedback in terms of how they found the interaction. It was very practical. You know, it wasn't very theory driven. It was practical, where people could actually be put on the spot to look at how prepared are they, you know, in terms of handling a crisis. And I believe that going back, you know, going away from here, they could be able to go back to the organizations and actually challenge the executives, challenge the structures that are there in terms of how ready you know, they are in terms of dealing with a crisis, in terms of communicating clearly with the stakeholders. So I think we've achieved that objective. Actually hosting the Crisis Communications Workshop in Ghana, and it has really grown in leaps and bounds from what we started off last year, and it's quite encouraging to see so many people who are in attendance and that they are taking their reputation very seriously, not just of themselves, but also of the companies that they represent. So I was quite impressed with the turnout, but also the quality of content that was shared. Well, I think currently, maybe to start off with what we're going to add, I think the level of engagement in terms of, you know, actually having simulations where people can practically, you know, experience what it's like being on the spot, whether it's in a TV setup, whether it's in a radio setup, it's something that we'll maintain to do, because most people, they don't have the leisure of being media trained. So just to get a sense of how important it is, not just for themselves, but also for the executives to be media trained, it's important. So we will maintain that. I think what we will add to is that crisis always happens around us, is to look at all those various case studies that are happening, because sometimes people think that, you know, that thing happened 5 years ago, it will never happen to us. So how do we actually keep abreast of other crises that are happening and what can we learn from them? So again, looking at not only locally, globally and across the continent, what is happening that we could learn. And I think our governments, they really provide that platform that gives us a lot of learning in terms of what not to do in a crisis, or what to do in terms of, you know, communicating to people. There seems to be an interest, because we've seen an increase in terms of number of delegates that have come through. So I cannot really say we will deduct anything. I think what we have to do is to look at what can we actually add and improve, but also listening to the delegates that have come through. We had evaluation forms that they filled, and just hearing what is it that they would like, because I also believe out of this there is a lot that we could also do individually for the companies that were represented, to go there and be able to help them formulate a crisis communications plan, help them with media training. So there is quite a lot that we'll be able to take from this and actually build on it. It might not necessarily be building on it in a setup like this, but with all the organizations that have been represented, going in there and seeing what we can do to help them with their communications.